I want to remind you of a couple things that have happened that have also factored in, I would imagine. This was back in 2022 of September. A lot of people aren't aware of this. A lot of people still see Bishop Strickland as this solid traditional theological giant, this traditional Catholic. And I want to say, wait, hold on. Is it traditional to accuse the papal magisterium of heresy? The answer is no. And yet that is exactly what Bishop Strickland has done for about a little over a year now, since September 16th of 2022. He signs a document, first on the list. I brought it up at the time. Most people overlook this, but I said, wait, this is a problem. Signs a document that condemns Pope Francis's teaching in Desiderio Desideravi as contrary to a dogma of the Catholic Church, thereby accusing the Pope of heresy, as the article itself describes. Heresy is what they are accusing him of. And it's not just him who is on the list. It's some of the other usual suspects. Well, Gracida, who's a sedevacantist, and then Schneider, Altman, who's now also a sedevacantist. A lot of these guys have gone sedevacantist since then. Deacon Nick Donnelly, Deacon Keith Fournier, Matt Gaspers. We have Peter Kwasniewski on here, John Lamont. We have Brian McCall, Father Gerald Murray, George Newmeyer. We have John Rist, Eric Sammons, and all kinds. Dr. Michael Cirilla over at Steubenville, Anthony Stein, John Henry Weston, and so on. All publicly accused the Pope of teaching heresy, not in some off-the-cuff statement on an airplane, but no, in Desiderio Desideravi, an apostolic letter, which is magisterial. So they're accusing the magisterium of teaching heresy. And that is a massive problem, because this is contrary not only to Dona Veritatis, but also the Eighth Ecumenical Council. As I've been reading to y'all the acts of the Eighth Ecumenical Council, saying that 2 patriarchs were condemned for this foolishness. Patriarch Photius, anathematized, and Dioscorus of Alexandria, anathematized for doing this. So what is being done here is in no way acceptable. And I imagine this factored in with his apostolic visitation. Look, when you accuse the Pope of teaching heresy, yeah, I could totally understand why you would be removed from ministry. But not only that, I also did a video last week showing a very troubling letter that Bishop Strickland shared at the Rome Life Forum. A very horrible and, in fact, demonically inspired letter, where the author of the letter clearly states that Pope Francis isn't the Pope. He's a usurper. Benedict was really the Pope, so Francis isn't a Pope. And saying things like Pope Francis promotes the voice of Satan. And the Bishop of Tyler at the time, Strickland, shares this letter, praises the guy as a wonderful Catholic, shares this letter to everyone at the Rome Life Forum, telling them it's for their benefit, because this was a private letter written to him, but he decided to share it with everybody. He says, this is for your benefit. He nowhere says, hey, I don't agree with this stuff about the Pope not being the Pope. Instead, he puts it forward for everyone's benefit. So he never says, hey, I agree with this part, but he effectively says that by promoting this letter to all the people present. And it's exactly what Father James Martin type of people do, where they might not come out and say, I believe that the church is wrong about its teaching on homosexuality. They might not say that explicitly, but they clearly are saying that in everything that they promote. Now, my personal view about Bishop Strickland is, and I totally could be wrong, I personally don't think that Strickland is a sedevacantist yet. I do think that he believes Pope Francis is Pope, but he clearly felt sharing this sedevacantist propaganda was worth sharing to everyone present and was helpful for their benefit. In other words, he felt this was worth floating around. So even if he doesn't agree that Pope Francis isn't the Pope, he perfectly sees it as a tolerable view. In fact, one, this should be floated around at this conference. Otherwise, he wouldn't have shared that part. Or at the very least, offered some kind of qualification, which he doesn't. So again, I personally don't think that he is a sedevacantist, but he sees it as a tolerable view, which also would then explain why he hasn't come out and condemned Altman, who he has previously promoted. It explains why he hasn't come out and condemned him once Altman went sedevacantist. Now, what does this mean in the future? Well, again, I do believe we are going to see explicitly various reasons for his removal. I've been told that that's forthcoming from Rome. We'll see. We'll see if it's true. Usually the source who tells me these things is pretty accurate. So I imagine we're going to hear something. And in fact, I think we should hear something because frankly, what we've heard from Rome so far, I kind of feel is, yeah, I think we need a little bit more than that. You know, whether you agree with Strickland or not, I think we should hear more than we've just kind of investigated his governance and leadership and felt that, you know, he's failed in that area. I think we need a little bit more than that. You know, whether you agree with him or not, I think we probably should be given more so that we can know if there's another bishop doing these things, that this is something to avoid. And other bishops too can know to avoid it. So I think it'll be helpful for them to come out and give us a little bit more than that. From what I can tell from all the various sources that I've been able to examine, it seems a huge part of his removal was the governance of his diocese. It seems that he lost the confidence of an important amount of priests in his diocese. And there were some very troubling decisions that were made in the administration of the diocese. And he, again, lost the confidence of a lot of his clergy. It seems that was a big issue. But then also his comments on social media, I think, just fanned the flames, added fuel to the fire. Saying things like Pope Francis has a program of undermining the faith. In other words, it's intentional. Pope Francis is trying to undermine the faith. You know, saying stuff like that as a bishop, never a good idea, but that comes on the heels of him already having publicly condemned the papal magisterium for teaching heresy. So I wasn't too surprised when he said that on Twitter, but a series of messages like that. And y'all remember at the time of his apostolic visitation, I said, I came here on Reason of Theology and I said, look, I think Bishop Strickland could still be a great bishop in his diocese. He still has a lot of good qualities. So I think he could still be a good bishop. But what he needs to do is back away from social media. Don't attack the Pope. Don't portray yourself as a martyr. And instead, what does he do? The very next day, goes right back to social media, portrays himself as a martyr. I'm a John the Baptist kind of thing. I'm being persecuted for speaking the truth. You can even see it here. Well, it's because I didn't implement Traditionis Custodes and I didn't want to starve my flock. That's why this is happening. And it's just delusional compared to the actual facts. Not only that, but we've seen some even more alarming developments where Bishop Strickland, as of July, has been saying things like he had this interior allocution from the Virgin Mary who told him that he is going to be a martyr for preaching the truth. And okay, even if that is an interior allocution that he received and it's legitimate, I don't think that that means he's going to be martyred by Rome. But it seems that is the way he has taken that alleged interior allocution. And I do say alleged because we don't even know that that's authentic. But assuming it is, I think he, at the very least, misunderstood that interior allocution. because he clearly understands this to be, he is going to be martyred for preaching the truth over and against Rome, over and against Pope Francis. And this is how schism begins every time in church history. I'm not saying that Bishop Joseph Strickland is going to start a schism. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that is how it starts, though. When you set yourself in opposition to Rome like this is how it happens every time. And if you are deluded to the point that you think that the Virgin Mary has called you personally to be a martyr for the truth over and against Rome, then there's nothing to check you. There's nothing to correct you, because you can't appeal to the magisterium. You can't say, hold on, wait, the magisterium is correcting this and you need to be subordinate to the magisterium. You can't, because that person is going to say, no, they have this extraordinary mission from the Virgin Mary. Now, if you do have an extraordinary mission, according to Francis de Sales, you would have miracles to back it up. So unless he can produce some kind of miracles, I'm not buying it. One needs to submit to Rome and its authority and its teaching authority, which he is currently in dissent against, as I've already demonstrated earlier. So it's a little troubling to see that. I don't know where he's going to go with this in the future, but here's what I think is going to happen. Well, at least it's likely to happen, but I sure hope it doesn't happen.